Good morning. We're going to talk a little bit about landscapes and then we'll talk about some steps to go to creating your own. If we look at this landscape here, we see some mountains and then we see some more mountains and then we see some rocks. I took this in the Tetons, and this was like we were standing here in this valley between two mountains, and then this were the mountains off in the background. So, a couple of things we want to talk about. Um, when we look at a landscape, there has to be a horizon line. So the horizon line is the line where the sky comes down and meets the land. And horizon is part of the word horizontal. So it's a horizontal line that goes sideways. So we know that the sky comes down here, and then these mountains and grasses and valleys are on ground. So they're on the horizon line. So even though this horizon line's here, it's getting overlapped by these mountains. Okay. Um, Anything that's on the horizon line, which is basically as far back as you can see, is in the background. So these mountains are as far back as you can see. So those are our background things. And then whatever's closest to you, like this rock here, or this rock here, this rock here, those are things that are in the foreground. That means they're forward and they are closer to you. Now, things that are in the foreground are always the biggest things in our artwork and in our photographs that we take of landscapes because they are closest to us. And when things are closest to us, they look larger. So even though we know that this mountain here is probably bigger than this rock looks bigger because it's so much closer to us and those mountains are so far away. So background small, foreground large. Now anything that's in the middle, this tree, this snow, this mountain, these shadows that are being cast from other mountains, those are all things that are in the middle ground. So they're not as small and they're not very detailed at all, compared to this. And then they're not as large as the things in the foreground. So foreground's large, middle ground's medium, background's small. Okay. So if we were going to draw something like this, and I'm not going to try to draw this exact thing, but I'm going to be inspired by it, I would know that my horizon line is that horizontal line that's going through my paper, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of think about some of my things that I want in my foreground. Like I'm going to want some of these rocks. And I'm not going to get too detailed right now, but these things that are in the foreground, those would be the things that have the most detail because they're so close to us. So we can see those details and things on these rocks. Okay, so then in our background, far away from us, that means sitting on the horizon line back here, we're going to have, I thought that was gray, we're going to have our mountains. Making this other mountain in front of it because there's some overlapping taking place. This mountain is in front of this one. This mountain is in front of that one. So those are my background mountains. And then my middle ground is overlapping that horizon line. And I have some mountains coming down from here. And some mountains coming down from here. Okay. So these mountains are kind of sloping and they're covering up that horizon line. So I can kind of have these kind of curving down and creating that valley. And I know we can still see the horizon line, but I'm going to cover that up and hide it. So things in the foreground that I might see, little tiny details like some of these pieces of grass. Now we know there's grass back here, but we're not seeing like individual little blades of grass because it is, I hope you said further away. And something else that we might have in the middle ground, I noticed these trees here. Now, again, we know that trees and mountains are probably bigger than trees, but because the mountains are far away, back in the background, they are smaller than our trees. So why do you think that those trees back here are smaller than these guys? You think they're just like little kid trees? Or do you think maybe they're further back than these? Ding, ding, ding. They're further away. So they're going to be smaller. I'm just adding some grasses to my valley and the bases of my mountains. These are some trees that are really far away in that valley. We'll put one over here too. So I will work some more on this and post a picture when it's done. But I would say try to create a landscape of your own and think about foreground and middle ground and background. Start with your horizon line and think about what you want to be far, far away. And then think about what you want to be really close. And then go and fill some things in the middle. It could be a simple field of flowers with some really big flowers in the foreground and then some smaller ones in the middle ground and then just like little hints of them in the background. It could be, you know, you walking with your family here and then your house here and then maybe the schools in the background. Okay, so have fun and please share what you make.